I'm undisputed.
Sett is a champion that has some great durability and solid control. His shields make him feel like a very tanky champion, and he does have multiple built-in slows in his kit with the potential to stun. All of this built-in control, AoE, and tankiness makes him have a pretty strong teamfight, and he also has no mana pool. You can use your abilities rather often and not have to worry about having that primary resource. For your cons, you first have a pretty mediocre late game. Your durability and damage potential will fall off a little bit in the late game compared to some champions, but you can still be successful. Now, Sett is also a pretty kiteable champion. As mentioned, you do have a lot of control, but that relies on you getting to the target. Your Q ability will give you a really short duration movement speed buff, but outside of that, you pretty much just have to walk up to enemies. For your runes, you want to go for Precision and Resolve, getting Conqueror as your keystone. This is a pretty solid keystone on Sett because you can stack it really quickly with your double punch and all of your abilities. You'll get all of that adaptive force and then heal for a nice chunk of your damage when you stack it fully. In the rest of Precision, focus on increasing your damage where you can, and then in Resolve, get Second Wind and Unflinching. This will give you some nice regeneration as well as some extra bonus armor and magic resist, but if there's not a lot of controls on the enemy team, you could go for Overgrowth for some just general durability, or Demolish if you want to push down towers even quicker. Since you do get a shield from your W, you could always consider Shield Bash as well. For your summoner spells, we first have a must grab, which is Flash. This summoner spell is just too good not to take on Sett. Like I did say, you don't have a lot of mobility, and this can be a great way to get you near a target so you can actually engage onto them. If you're pretty close to an enemy champion, but not quite close enough to land that ultimate or E ability, this can make up that difference. You don't really have any built-in ways of escaping either, so this is a great way to jump away if you do need it. The two options for your second summoner spell are both incredibly strong on Sett and interchangeable. So first is Ignite. If you feel like the enemy champion you're against is going to be easy to trade with and you want a little bit of added kill potential, Ignite is going to be fantastic. The added kill potential that Ignite brings can really increase the chances of you getting your lane snowballing. If you instead wanted something a little bit more default, or you're somebody that just enjoys split pushing, or perhaps you're against a really hard matchup, Teleport probably the better option. Just make sure you pick up Flash and then take either Teleport or Ignite. It is complete personal preference. Now let's look at your abilities, starting with your passive, Pit Grit. The first section is just innate that gives him a bit of regeneration based on every 5% of his missing health. The main part though is called Heavy Hands, which makes him alternate between left and right punches. He'll follow up his left punch with a right punch that gives him bonus range, attack speed, and bonus physical damage. So for this passive, you're just getting a little bit of extra regeneration throughout the game, but you'll also attack twice really quickly whenever you go for trades or engagements. Make sure you do get that second attack off because it's much stronger than the first. Next we have your Q ability, Knuckle Down. When activated, your next two basic attacks within 5 seconds gain 50 bonus range and get bonus physical damage which scales off the target's maximum health. For 1.5 seconds, you'll also get 30% bonus movement speed as long as you're moving towards a visible enemy champion within 2,000 range. So this first is the little extra mobility that Sett does get. Obviously 1.5 seconds is not very long, but sometimes it's enough to get on an enemy. When you get to the enemy, make sure you hit them with both empowered auto attacks, and keep in mind this does reset your basic attack timer as well, so you do want to follow it after a normal auto if you can. Next you got your W, Haymaker. First you got your passive little gray health portion that can be up to 50% of your maximum health. When you activate the ability, you'll shoot a cone out in the target direction while also consuming this gray health and giving yourself a shield based on the amount. Enemies hit in the center line of this cone will be dealt true damage instead, so you should be trying to hit them in the center. The damage also scales off the expended grit that you do receive from your gray health, so you want to try to use it at a high amount to really nuke a target. Next we got your E ability, Facebreaker. When activated, you'll pull in enemies from the front and back, dealing physical damage and slowing them by 70%. As long as an enemy is pulled from each side, they will be instead stunned for 1 second. The ability does have a range of 450 units, so it's a great way to pull an enemy on top of you if you're having trouble getting on top of them. In teamfights, you want to try to make sure you pull in a target from each direction because the stun is obviously going to be much stronger than the slow. And finally, we've got your ultimate, the Showstopper. When activated, you'll jump forward, pick up a target, and then slam them against the ground. All enemies hit by the ability will take damage, but the people that are on the proximity will only take 75% depending on where they are, but all targets will be slowed by 99%. This damage also scales off the primary target's bonus health, so it's great to use this on a tankier target and slam them into the backline so it does more damage. For your skill order, you want to put a point into your ultimate whenever you can at 6, 11, and 16. Then focus on maxing your Q ability first. It has scaling attack damage and it will be your primary source of damage in trades during the lane phase. Then max your W ability second and follow it up with your E. Just make sure you take a point in the ability at level 4 so you have a way of pulling the targets in towards you to follow up with the rest of your combo. For your first combo, we have a very simple one, and it's just combining your W and your flash. Start by casting your W ability, and before it lands, use your flash to hit the target with the ability. Try to make sure you hit the enemy with the middle strip so you deal true damage instead of normal physical damage. This combo is pretty strong in team fights if you want to ensure that you get that AoE damage on multiple targets to do a massive chunk of AoE. Don't just spam it randomly though, flash is a very important cooldown. For your second combo, we have your full trading combo. Start by hitting the enemy with both of your auto attacks, use your Q to reset and hit them once more, then use your EW and auto attack them again with your second empowered auto. This combines your entire kit while also auto attacking the enemy champion 4 times with 3 of them being empowered. It does a pretty surprising amount of damage, and you should win trades with the majority of champions as long as you don't miss anything. For your third combo, we add in the ultimate. Start by engaging onto the enemy champion with your ultimate, and then land your EW, hit them with both auto attacks, use your Q as a reset, and hit them with that last empowered auto. This combination is yet again going to be 4 auto attacks, 3 of those being empowered. If you can, use the ultimate on a tanky champion in the front line and land it on the back line so it does more damage since it's based on maximum health. Since Sett is a champion that's pretty strong in the early game, he's going to be pretty good against those champions that need a bit to get going. Due to that, some of his best matchups are things like Xin Zhao, Gwen, Jace, Yasuo, and Aurelia. As long as he can consistently trade with these champions throughout the lane phase with his abilities off cooldown, he should come out on top pretty much always. There's many other champions that he's really strong against, this is just a chunk of some of his best win rates. For his bad matchups, we have some champions that can stay at range or are just also really strong early on in the game. Things like Volibear and Malphite are pretty hard to win trades against, and Singed can kinda just run around and kite you. Then of course there's champions like Kayle and Vayne that can easily stay away from you. In teamfights you can definitely take advantage of how squishy they are, but in the lane phase it's going to be pretty aids. You can just play more passively throughout the lane phase and try to just survive, you'll have more of an impact in those teamfights. In the early lane phase, try to harass the enemy champion while you're also getting last hits. You want to make sure you're hitting the enemy champion with both of your auto attacks and use your Q as a reset to hit the enemy champion 4 times really quickly. You also want to try to hold on to your W ability, wait until you have a lot of gray health and then use the ability so it deals a ton of damage and try to hit them with the middle for true damage. Your E is then going to be a great way to pull a target onto you so you can trade or use it on them while they're running away to keep trading with them. As long as you're on even ground or ahead, you should be pretty much using your ultimate on cooldown to try to all-in the enemy. In the mid and late game, you should be focusing on split pushing, team fighting, and getting objectives. If you did take teleport, this will be pretty easy because you'll just sit in side lanes until you're needed and then teleport for those objectives in team fights. If you did opt for Ignite, you have to be more careful. You either have to push that side lane really quickly and all in a champion if they're there, or you have to move quicker so you make it to the teamfighter objective and you're not too late. Sett is an incredibly strong team fighter that can have a lot of impact in a team fight, so you have to make sure you're there pretty much at all costs unless your team is way ahead. For your item pool, you want to start with a Doran's Blade and a health potion. This gives you a really nice starter health pool, but also lifesteal and a bit of extra attack damage. If you're in a very hard matchup, you could always go for Doran's Shield as well, but keep in mind you do get a nice chunk of regeneration from your passive as well. For your core items, we have a Stridebreaker and an Overlord's Bloodmail. Stridebreaker is a fantastic item on Sett because it gives you a form of AoE damage outside of your W, while also giving you offensive and defensive stats and a nice AoE slow that lasts 3 seconds. Overlords gives you really good stats as well, while also increasing your attack damage based on your health. If you dip low, this will increase even farther and you can bait people in because you can get a really big shield on your W and have a ton of damage while also being tanky still. Then make sure you pick up your boots. You can get either swiftness, mercs, or plated steel caps. All of them are great options. If you're mostly just against slows, pick up the swiftness, but if there's a lot of crowd control, get mercs, and if there's a lot of attack damage, get the steel caps. Then after these 2 core items and your boots, you want to move on to the rest of your items, and first up is a black cleaver. If you feel like the enemy champions are going to be getting a lot of armor, this is a great way to help shed it for both you and your teammates. Steraks gauge is in a nice mix of offensive and defensive because if you do take a lot of damage, you can get a nice shield, making you a lot more durable. If you're going for a split push heavy style, you could always go for a hull breaker as well to make sure you do extra damage to towers and also buff minions. You could get a Spear of Shojin so you can use your abilities more often in team fights, or you could go for a Warmogs. You can go in for big trades in team fights and then step out for a couple seconds, regain all your health, and then go back and do it again. And that is everything I've got for Sett. Thank you guys so much for checking out the video. I really do appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Take it easy, have a good day, and peace.